Alright, so this is the Desmos activity that you were all working on last class. Here is the 14th slide. Here we have the equation x minus 4 equals 6. So I already set it up kind of how I was supposed to, with 4 in the middle, because a positive 4 is what makes this equal to 0. And then I move these red points until they read 6 at the top. Because what this question is actually asking is what numbers, what x's, are a distance of 6 away from 4. Okay? And what you'll see here is, here's 4 in the middle. One number that is a distance of 6 away from 4 is 10. And another number that is a distance of 6 away from 4 is negative 2. Okay? So what you'll see is when we have this happening, we have two possible answers. We could have either went left on the number line or we could have went right on the number line. This number should never be negative when it comes out. We do not report distance as a negative number. You may have heard me say this before, but you would never tell somebody that we need to go to the gas station, it's negative 2 miles that way. It just doesn't make any sense, okay? So when you get to problems that look like this, where everything in the absolute value bar and everything equals a negative number, that is not possible. There's no reason for me to even mess with this thing. I can put it at 7, but I'll never be able to get that number at the top to be a negative 1. And that's because we never report distance as a negative number. Okay? So, what you'll notice that, come on up. There we go. So what you'll notice is that there's 3 possibilities for absolute value equations. Okay? We could have it equal to a positive number, we could have it equal to 0, or we could have it equal to a negative number. Alright? For a positive number, we always have 2 possible solutions. This x could be the positive version of x, or it could be the negative version. Okay? So this x is basically a distance of 2 from 0. So those numbers that are a distance of 2 from 0 are 2 and negative 2. Now, if we have something equal to 0, we could write the same thing. We could write 0 and negative 0. But this doesn't exist. There is no such thing as negative 0. 0 is the number that splits up the positives and the negatives. It represents nothing. Okay? So there is no negative 0, so we just report 0. Finally, like I've said, we cannot have negative distance. So this absolute value of z equaling negative 2, the possibilities of z are nothing. There's no possible number for me to find that would be that if I took the absolute value of it, I'd get a negative number out. Z has no solution. It's impossible. Okay? So, to kind of summarize, there's 3 types of solutions. If we have it equal to a positive number, we have 2 solutions. Okay? If we have it equal to a negative number, we have no solutions. And finally, if we have it equal to 0, right in the middle of positive and negative, we get 1 solution. So let's take a look at a few problems that we may run into here. Okay? So let's start with something kind of simple. Let's say the absolute value of j minus 5 equals 2. Okay? Now, what you'll notice is I have j inside the absolute value bars, but I have a number outside the absolute value bars. Okay? What I like to think of this as is you want to get this kind of quarantined. You want to get it on one side of the equation all by itself. You want to get that absolute value bars with nothing else over there, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add 5 to both sides. Get that to cancel out. Okay? So far, it's just like any algebra problem. What you do is you just either add, subtract, or divide, whatever you got to do to get the absolute value bars all by itself. Okay? Now, once you get the absolute value bars by itself, this is when things get a little different. Okay? Now, remember, if it equals a positive number, there's 2 possible solutions. J could be the negative solution, or J could be positive solution. Okay? So what I like to do is I like to draw these little arrows and go off to the side and create my negative equation and go off to the side and create my positive equation. Okay? What happens to get rid of your absolute value bars, to cancel them out, you have to split the equation. One where you write exactly what's in the absolute value bars equal to the negative version of this number, and one where you write out what's in the absolute value bars equal to the positive version of that number. Okay? And there are our 2 solutions. Okay? Now, what if we just start off the bat with something like this? Okay? Now I have that minus 2 to get rid of around my r. But notice what I said was you wanted to get the absolute value bars quarantined on one side of the equation by itself. And notice, on the left side of the equation, the only thing I have is my absolute value bars and the equation inside them. So since I only have my absolute value bars on this side, I can immediately split this up. R plus 2 equals 5. Oops, negative 5. There's my negative version. R plus 2 equals positive 5. And there's my positive version. Again, that's how you cancel out your absolute value bars, is you split them into the negative equation and the positive equation. Everything inside the bars stays exactly the same, and for one equation, your number becomes negative, and the other equation, it stays positive. Okay. And then from here, you do the same steps you would normally do solving an equation. Here I'll subtract 2 from both sides. R could equal negative 7. Over here I'll do the same thing. I'll subtract 2 from both sides. R could equal positive 3. There are my 2 solutions. Okay. Now, let's see what it looks like if we have something multiplied in front. All right. So let's see. Negative absolute value of b equals negative 6. Now, you may see this and you may think immediately, oh, no solution, because my absolute value bar equals a negative, right? So no solution, I'm done. Not exactly. We do not have this absolute value bars by itself. Okay? So what we need to do is get this negative sign off of here. And remember, a negative sign in front indicates that it's a negative 1. So that's what we're going to divide by. And here I see the absolute value of b equals a positive 6 now, because negative divided by negative makes it positive. Okay. So now I have the absolute value of b equals a positive 6, so I know I'm going to get my two solutions. And again, to cancel out those absolute value bars, we split it into two possible answers. B could be a negative 6, B could be a positive 6. Okay? Alright. Let's put it all together with a couple crazy equations. Alright, so 7 minus the absolute value of negative 2c minus 4 equals negative 5. This one may look a little crazy, but it's not too bad, okay? We're going to start by getting our absolute value bars by themselves, okay? First thing you should move is anything that's being added or subtracted to it. So here we see 7 minus, this is a positive 7. I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So I end up with negative absolute value minus 4, absolute value equals negative 12. Okay, so I subtracted 7 from both sides. Now I'm going to divide by that negative 1 like I did in the previous problem. So I get the absolute value of negative 2c minus 4 equals a positive 12. And now is when we're going to split it up into our two equations. Let's use some different colors so we can kind of keep track of these. So our first one we're going to drop the absolute value bars, and we're going to make it equal to our negative 12. Notice everything that was inside the absolute value bar stayed exactly the same. Minus 2c minus 4. Only thing that changed was that. Minus 2c minus 4 equals a positive 12. Okay. Alright, so for both of these, we can do the exact same stuff. Let's add 4 to both sides. I gotta straighten this out a little bit. There we go. Add 4, add 4. Those cancel out. I'll get 16 over here. Minus 2c. And divide by negative 2. C could be negative 8. Okay. Now, since I did all the steps over here, I'm going to do the same steps over here. Add 4 to both sides. Just be careful because your numbers will change. Here it's negative 12 plus 4. Notice over here I got a positive 16. I'm going to get a negative 8 over here. Let's put a line there so you can see it. And then I'm going to divide by negative 2 on both sides. Let's still write it down here. C equals a positive 4. So even though we got a little messy, we found our answers. C could equal 4, or C could equal negative 8. Notice, I started with algebra, just getting my absolute value by itself, subtracting and dividing. Then I canceled out my absolute value bars by splitting it into two equations. And then I did the same thing. I got C by itself by adding and then dividing. Okay, so it's basically just like how you would solve an algebra equation, just with these extra steps here, and then you got to do a little bit more algebra. Okay, I got time for one more, real quick. This one's going to freak some people out, but it'll be okay. 8 times 1/3 x plus 4/3 plus 5 equals 3. Okay, so what we need to do with this one is we need to do exactly what we did before. Get the absolute value bars by themselves. I'm going to subtract 5 first. Remember, we want to take care of the stuff that's being added or subtracted first. 1/3 x plus 4/3 equals -2. Then I will divide by 8. Divide by 8. 1/3 x plus 4/3 equals -1/4. Now, probably freaking out being like, oh my gosh, look at all these fractions. I gotta find the greatest common denominator and all that stuff. Nope, I'm done. As soon as I see this, an absolute value bar equaling a negative number, no matter what that negative number is or anything like that, this variable, x, has no solution. Okay, so save yourself some trouble. As soon as you notice that an absolute value bar all by itself equals a negative number, immediately no solution. Okay? Alright guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoy your weekend and have a good one.